let's talk about what you're up to for a few minutes. Let people know what's going on with Scott Henderson today. Jazz Guitar Today. Go figure.
Well,
Go
not
ahead.
anything unusual. It's just doing more of the same, basically.
Well, you're teaching.
You know.
You're teaching at Musicians Institute.
Just one day a week. Yeah.
And then you do Zoom lessons with people, don't you, as well?
That's kind of getting to be over with soon because I'm going back to work.
You're going you're going on the road. You said you're going to South America.
South America, and then January in the States or in the West Coast, and then Europe in March, and then East Coast in June, and then Asia in the fall. So I'm back to touring, and that's nice. Yeah, it's been a long break. But I got something done. I wrote an album, and so we'll be playing those tunes on the road, and then hopefully I'm hoping that we can get into the studio around either end of 22 or beginning of 23.
When are you going to Asia? Do you know what the
probably in the fall?
And when are you going to be in Europe? In the spring?
Yeah, March, April.
So man, that makes me feel good. I'm really glad. Well, listen, this is Bob Bakert for Jazz Guitar Today. If you've never been to a Scott Henderson show and you're a guitar player or you're a musician of any kind, man, you got to go, because it is just mind-boggling to watch this man do what he does, listen to the music that's happening, and realize that this is a human being in front of you that's creating all of this stuff. No, I'm serious. Listen,
you're making it sound like I'm good.
You are good. You know damn well you are good. You're damn good. And I know you're humble about it. I mean, I know you're good, but you're humble about how good you are.
Put it this way, we are usually the musicians that I respect. I mean, you got to have some confidence, absolutely, especially on stage. You've got to have confidence, but man, when I look at all my heroes, it's humbling. You know what I mean? Like,
Scott, you don't hide behind anything when you play, man. Listen, I'm telling you.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. When you play, you have to have a level of confidence. But I'm saying, look, with all one of the things that I want to really stress, and I guess something that maybe I said it, but I'd like to say it again. There's a lot of musicians out there who are flying blind. I don't know why, but they allow themselves to get into a cult, a religious music cult. Cults are bad. Religious cults are bad. Music cults are bad. I've seen it. I've seen how music becomes not just the notes, but the lifestyle. Some of the heavy metal cats, the way they dress, the way they talk, you would never catch them listening to a Beyonce record, because it's not cool. Right. Fucking idiots, because they don't know what they don't know. It's just stupidity. And you would think that, and I'm not saying anything bad about metal, because I like a lot of metal.
It's
right.
It's like bluegrass. If you think it's not good music, try playing it sometime. It's a bitch.
Yeah. Well, I don't have anything against metal. I'm not saying I'm like the hugest metal fan, but there are metal bands that I really like, and they're metal guitar players who are really great. Like these guys are monsters, right? So, but the thing is you would think that kind of attitude only would hit a really stupid crowd, but it doesn't, because the jazz guys are just as bad. They can't appreciate Led Zeppelin. They don't know what to listen for because they're stupid, basically. So they're so into their little cult that they can't see out of it. They don't see that there's anything more to music than eighth notes and their whatever they're doing on their instruments that fits that style of music that they play. They can't see past their own. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know why they can't appreciate. I'm not saying they have to play it, but they can't even appreciate it. They think it's noise, or they think it's bullshit, or like these jazz guys, they think the only real way to record jazz is you go in the studio and you play the music down and that's what happened. And then you walk out of the studio and that's a record. Now, if you touch that, oh, it's not jazz anymore. In other words, they only believe in theater. So those kind of people shouldn't ever go to a movie,
right?
Because, movies shouldn't exist because they're bad, because they had to do multiple takes to get it right. So, oh God, that's bad. That's not, that lacks integrity. If you have to take more than one take, it's obviously no good, so that doesn't count, Robert De Niro's third take, it doesn't count because his first take is the one that was the only one that was good. Right. His third take was cheating. It lacks integrity. So movies just shouldn't be made. It should only be theater. See, that's how these guys think about music. So what's the difference between a jazz live gig and a jazz record? Nothing. The only difference is someone was there with a microphone to record it. If someone had a microphone on, it's a record. Otherwise, it's a live gig. So I'm saying that, there are other guys that came along like Miles, like Weather Report, like Chick Corea, like Herbie Hancock, who decided that they wanted to make their record more like a movie.
Right.
They wanted to add things to it. They want, even going back to McCoy Tyner when he made Fly with the Wind, adding an orchestra and doing all this stuff and layering and all these great sounds and try to make a record more than just another gig. Right. But there's a lot of jazz musicians who think that's wrong. They think like the kind of records I make, I love the layering and the going in there and like adding stuff to it and making it sound bigger and going nuts with pedals and fixing mistakes even like, oh yeah, I made a blatant clam there. I'm not, oh no, I don't want to fix it.
Well, what's really funny about this is that we're getting all the way back around to rock's influence on jazz.
Well, see, that's why in some ways, well, I guess we didn't bring this up, but which music has certain limitations, like maybe a rock guy doesn't spend as much time really mastering his instrument, like I'm talking about not so much scales and stuff like that, not scholastic stuff. Right. But these days, to be in a rock band, you don't really have to be like some virtuoso. You can just play your part and it can be fine. And it fits the music and it's all good, no problem. Like, in other words, you don't have to be Eddie Van Halen to be in a rock band or Yngwie Malmsteen. You can still be in a great rock band like the Black Crowes or something like that. And not be a virtuoso, but just be a good player, right, with good tone and good phrasing. Right. In the jazz world, it's like, it's more about being a virtuoso. It's more learning like all jazz musicians seem to want to be virtuosos, right? They spend so much time learning to be better improvisers that sometimes the creativity suffers because, dude, why are you playing all the things you are? Why not play your own tune? Why not write something? Why not make an album of original music instead of just playing standards where the composers of those tunes are going to make all the money? Well, instead of reharmonizing Stella by Starlight with all these chords, why don't you write your own tune?
Charlie Parker.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying I'm just saying that in a way, the rock musicians, they may not be virtuosos, but they do try to write their own music. They feel like the composition is a big part of being a musician. Like, if I'm a musician, why shouldn't I write my own music?
Getting back to like what I was talking about when we first started talking about an hour or so ago, that a big mission for jazz guitar today is to get all the genres to appreciate each other. The one thing I will say is the better the player, the higher up the level, the Jimmy Brunos of the world, the Scott Hendersons of the world, the higher echelon of guys, those guys, I've never seen any of them not appreciate other people's music. This is just my experience. When I get the medium guys and all the other, those are the guys that have a tendency to be a lot more rigid because they're just hanging on. But most of the guys that I've talked to who are very, very, very high level players have a pretty good appreciation for all the different genres. Now, they don't play it, or maybe they're not good at it, or they don't want to play it, or all that, but they have an appreciation for the talent and the skill and the dedication.
That's the thing, though. But the thing is if you have an appreciation for something, it usually leaks into your music somehow, even
Agreed.
in a small way. You
Yeah.
know, like it could be a small thing that's so subtle nobody even realizes it, but or recognizes it, but it's there. It's
Right.
subtle. You know, like for example, like what I just talked about, composition. You don't see that many jazz musicians these days who just completely ignore it. Maybe the old school guys do, but I mean, Bruce Foreman is a very traditional jazz guitar player. He writes his own tunes.
Absolutely.
You know, he plays standards too, but he also writes his own music as well. And a lot of jazz guitar players too. But I'm just saying that what bothers me is that when people put down other ways of playing jazz than just playing all the things you are in a live setting in the studio and put up the mics and walk out, that there's no other way to do it. Some people say that, well, the Weather Report albums, there's something wrong with them because they didn't just go in and play live and turn off the machines and walk out. No, I mean, Joe's probably got 16 layers of keyboards on those records, in the same way that Jimmy Page has like 16 guitar tracks and some of those Led Zeppelin tunes. You know, they're subtle, they're in the background, you don't realize they're there, but they're there, you know. And there's a lot of stuff going on in the background that's subtle, and that's what makes it so beautiful, like being able to appreciate it. And I think the key word here is appreciate, not copy. You don't, just because you appreciate a certain type of music doesn't mean you have to copy it and do it yourself. But to appreciate it means that you're going to be a little bit influenced by it, and it's going to open your perspective up, you know, and it's going to get you out of that cult. Like I saw a bunch of guys at MI one time when Tower Power came to play at MI that day. First time Tower Power ever played at MI. There was a bunch of heavy metal guys there that got their shit blown away. Right. And they were just like different people. Some of them came into my open counseling room and they were just like, whoa.
What?
And I was like, so what you're telling me is you don't have to be a heavy metal guy to be a great musician or to have a great band. And they were like, yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying.
Well, listen,
because, you know, I mean, it's like eye-opening when you see something that has nothing to do with what you do, but is like hits you in almost a spiritual way because it's so damn good, you know, and you're just like, whoa, that blew me out of my chair. And it's not the kind of music that I play. And I love it. I love to see people have those kind of experiences when something really, really grabs them by the throat and they just go, that was amazing. Even if it has nothing to do with the style of music that they play, to be able to appreciate something really great like that.
Being open-minded and appreciation.
Just to be open-minded, basically. God, I mean, how simple is that? Be like a no-brainer. Just be an open-minded musician and probably good things will happen to you. That's my message.
I like it, man. Well, listen, I'm Bob Bakert. That's Scott Henderson. We do want to mention that Bruce Foreman is our cover next month. And I can't even imagine what it's like to be in the room with the two of you guys in the same place.
Man, it's funny. You know, Bruce, you know, luckily, you know, just lucky for me, Bruce is one of those guys that gets it.
Oh, God,
you know, because he grew up in San Francisco, man. He was a hippie. He listened to all the Woodstock music. He's, you know, I mean, he gets it.
No, I love Bruce. I think he's great.
It's you know, he's one of the most open-minded people that you know, and maybe, you know, when you hear his music, he told me a funny story. He said some critic heard his album and said, sounds like Bruce hasn't heard any music since the 50s. I was like, well, his music is traditional. It's traditional bebop, but I mean, he does it so well. But the thing is that Bruce is happy to talk about any kind of music, and he really does appreciate other.
Yeah, and he's got his own. He's got his own. His, you know, he's like, you know, his bebop, but he's got a little. You know, he pushes his nose up. I mean, I know it's like he's got his own thing. He plays some, you know, some his approach to that music is definitely
he's
unique to
definitely
him.
bastardized it.
Yeah, no, he's got his thing. He's a monster player, and he's a cool guy and brilliant mind, just a freaking brilliant mind, and I love him. Like I said, he's going to be.
I like what John Scofield said in an interview about how he was a jazz musician, but also proud to have been a part of the bastardization of jazz. And I went, wow, bastardization sounds really dirty, but I think it's a good thing.
Oz Noy had a great quote. He said, I asked him about his music. He said, well, it's jazz. It just doesn't sound like it. I love that. I thought I love Oz,
man. We've had Oz on as a guest on the podcast, and he's a great cat, man. He's been, he's one of the guys who he really is supportive. He comes out when I play in New York, he comes out and hangs, and he's a good friend. And, we've been threatening each other to do a Zoom thing together and discuss Inner Urge, because we both like to play that tune. And he does some stuff on it that I want to know.
You two guys ought to do a record together sometime.
That would be fun,
man. Because you two guys, I mean, you two guys would be freaking ridiculous. That would be
a brilliant player, and
he is.
And he's one of those guys who's really crossed jazz with just about every other modern kind of more modern stuff.
And he's schooled in the old school as well, and as and all that kind of stuff and all that. Well, I can't thank you enough for doing this. We're going to do it again.
My pleasure, Bob. Thank you so much.
We're going to do it again. Man, getting your take, I feel like we could probably talk for 3 or 4 more hours, and I mean that sincerely, because getting your take on all this stuff is so refreshing, to be honest. I just you do get it. To use your words, Bruce Foreman, and it's fun to talk to you, to be honest with you. Bob Bakert with Scott Henderson.
Thank you so much.
Amazing Scott Henderson.
Thank you so much.
Guitar Today, man. See you, brother. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.